Hello and welcome to the Creative Writing Podcast. The theme of this episode is fire. You'll need a pencil and a notebook, or the Notes app on your phone, or a nice new shiny Word document. The first few minutes will be a writing warm up. Then I'll talk a little about why I chose the topic and why it's interesting for writers, and then we'll get to a main writing exercise. During the writing, I'll speak about every 2 to 5 minutes, and that's to give you a chance to concentrate. Remember, every moment of silence on the podcast is an invitation for you to put words down on the page. Towards the end of the main exercise, I'll give you an opportunity to press pause so you can write for much longer if you like. And then I'll invite you to reflect on some of the work you did today. So let's begin with our writing warm up. Don't overthink it. Remember just to keep writing. It doesn't matter what you get down on the page in the warm up. This is literally to get your fingers and your brain going. Imagine that somebody very wet and cold comes into a room from the outside. It's been raining. They're wearing a lot of clothes that they had on to protect them from the wind and the cold and the rain. And in the room that they step into is a warm fire, perhaps in an old-fashioned iron grate. They do what anybody would do in that situation. They walk over and they begin to warm themselves up. And maybe think about beginning this writing exercise with the fingers and the toes. Have a think as well about when they might take off some of this wet, cold outerwear that they're cocooned in for the outside world. So just 6 or 7 minutes, then a person begins to warm up next to a roaring fire. And now, if you are enjoying your writing, you can ignore this direction. But if you need something else, perhaps the logs or the coals shift in the fire and your person has to sort that out and reorganize their fire so that it will keep burning. And then we can direct our reader's attention right to the wood and the flames and the cold and the ash and the heat. And for the last moment of this writing exercise, I would like you to have your character make a decision about what they are going to do next. They're not going to act on that decision. They are going to stay sitting by the fire, but they are going to go through the process of deciding. And now we'll begin to come to the end of that warm up. So if this scene has really taken off for you, then hit pause. Otherwise, you can find somewhere intentional to stop. It might be the end of a sentence, a couple of bullet points, a thought, the completion of a passage of description or a line of dialogue. It's always nice to know that we've finished there because that's where we intended to finish. So before we get to the main writing exercise, let's think for a few moments about fire. We use fire as a metaphor for a bewildering array of emotions and states. Characters can be on fire, meaning that they are controlling the situation, but they can also burn out. And recognizing that success sometimes leads to defeat is an interesting thread for writers to pull. Over the length of a novel, moments of burnout can be great false defeats for your protagonist. All stories require some kind of conflict, learning, or change, and how we experience that in our bodies can often be through heat and burning. It's used to describe emotions such as embarrassment, guilt, fury, shame, desire, excitement, or even simple nerves. So let's imagine a character. You can use this exercise on a character you're writing about, or perhaps this will be someone entirely new that you meet through this writing exercise. A character has just received a note that provokes a strong emotional reaction. Do not worry about the nature of the information in the note. You do not need to let the reader know what it is for this exercise. Let's begin by simply writing their physical reaction. If they try to deny the note or accept what's in it, don't let them. Let's just have a moment where they lose it. They give in to their emotions. They get incredibly hot and bothered. And you can let them move around if they need to. One of the things for this one is it can be a mistake to let your characters be too still. So your character will receive a note that provokes a strong emotional reaction. And that's all we have for the beginning. And now your character is going to decide to burn the note. You still do not need to reveal what it says. You don't even need to know what it says. The best thing for them to do now is to burn it. To do this, they will have to find a source of fire, and they will have to leave no trace of the ashes. So now your character, after losing it with their emotions, has a very practical task ahead. Find some fire, burn the note, leave no trace of the ashes. Let's see how they begin to go about that mission. And now, if you are enjoying your writing, then ignore me. If you need a little prompt, then why not have your character almost be discovered in this act? Somebody nearly catches them. We can begin to lean into feelings of embarrassment and guilt and shame, that burning sense of shame within them that they are trying to destroy this note. You could then decide to push your piece in the direction of something melodramatic. Perhaps you could go past melodrama into farcical comedy as they try to burn the note. Or perhaps you're going to keep it smaller in the vein of something psychological, emotional, something perhaps even creepy or internal. But if you would like to experiment with that idea, you can. Somebody almost catches them trying to burn the note. And now, if you haven't included the fire already, I would invite you to make sure there are some flames, some physical flames in your piece of writing today. And if you have got round to including them, you may want to play with the idea of the fire spreading. Perhaps in trying to burn the note is not the only thing that burns. But again, you can ignore that if you wish to. And once again, this is a prompt which may make a lot of sense for some of the pieces of writing, and it may make no sense for yours whatsoever. So this is one I will throw on the table for you to take or leave. How about the character's love interest making an appearance here? Either by physically entering the room or in the character's thoughts. What you want here is the person for whom they have a burning, lustful desire. Let's think about the burning of desire. So, not a partner that they have learned to ignore, or an arranged marriage in a fantasy land that they have no interest in. Let's lean into burning, heartbreaking love with a hint, if we want, of lust. Burning desire. And now, having struggled with burning and ashes and people and love interests, you might decide for your character to find a quiet moment, sit down, and draft a reply to the note. That might be something very easy for them to do. It might be something where the words are difficult to find. Either of those will work. So it's up to you, but you may find your character wants to sit down and write a reply to the note. And for the last few moments, let's experiment with the idea of burnout. Your character realizes it was a terrible idea to burn the note. They are full of regret for that action. They curse the initial heat and anger that led them to do it. The last couple of moments then, regret for burning the note. And if you still have some work to do on this, then just hit pause now. Otherwise, we'll find an intentional place to bring it to a close. If this idea is sparking other ideas, take a moment to get those down on a page before they disappear. But otherwise, you can find the end of a sentence, the conclusion to an idea, a satisfying end. That's part of writing, working out when to finish. And then we'll sit back for a bit and reflect on the work we've done today. Have a read through what you have written and have a look for me. Was there a passage that you particularly enjoyed writing? So I took you through a number of different prompts in the last half an hour. Perhaps you were happiest at the beginning with anger, or perhaps when your character folded into the interior feelings of depression and reflection and regret, you found that a lot easier. It's an interesting thing to know about yourself as a writer. Was it that big, angry, emotional piece that was easiest? Or perhaps you were someone who followed the prompts to have another character enter, the love interest or the potential for discovery, and perhaps you found that that was the easiest thing to write, and your writing came alive once there was more than one person in your scene for some back and forth, some interesting dialogue or body language, or just the pressure of somebody else's presence, whether we really adore them or slightly fear what they might discover about us. Have a read through too for your descriptions of flame. So I titled this session Fire. We've had this job that we asked our character to do, to burn the note. It's interesting to note whether or not you were someone who really got involved in this idea of fire and flames and ashes and the physicality of the fire, or whether the emotional journey through interested you a lot more. There are no wrong answers to that. It's just tapping into and recognizing where you instinctively go. If you instinctively go to those emotions and that interiority, then you want creative projects that can help that to flourish. If you set the whole house on fire, the entire building, the block, the city, and you're more interested in the big action peril, then once again, no wrong answers, but you've learned something about what kind of things you like to write. And that's what workshops like this are all about. And of course, we're going to end the same way we always do, by reading through and highlighting or putting a star in the margin or drawing around some of the words on the page that you like. Perhaps this piece became very comedic to you and you have a really good punchline in there somewhere. Perhaps that description of flame really spoke to your soul and you have some fantastic flames and ashes and sparks. Or maybe it was the emotions. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that when we go back through our notebooks and through the work we're doing, we can see things easily that appealed to us about previous work that we might want to build on, or we might want to lift out of this context, drop into another one, start again from there. A little bit of tracking our own journey, because that might help point to where we go next. So that was a pretty fast workshop on fire. I must say, it's a subject about which I could probably write 50 workshops. This was only one way, one introductory way into thinking about flames and heat and burning and the role it might play in our stories. With a topic like this, an elemental topic, there are many, many others. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I look forward to seeing you next time.